starting the recording. And I guess I will call this meeting to order. Do we have quorum yet? Did Peter?
What is your number of committee members?
Let's see, we have Tom Mader and Peter Rothe. Do you see them yet?
No, did Peter tell you he will come?
Peter emailed me and he didn't see the link, and I'm in the agenda.
I will try to invite him. I have his email.
Thank you. And I will call Tom. Once we have Peter, we will have quorum.
Madam Chair, may I suggest taking public comment?
Yes, that's a good idea. Yeah. My name is Gwen Henry. The sustainability meeting is now come to order, and we can begin with the first item, which is public comment on non-agenda items. If anyone has that from the public, go ahead and raise your hand if you so do desire to do that.
We have Jesse De La Cruz. Do you want me to make him a panelist as well?
Please do, yes.
Okay.
What I'm going to do is hi,
May I
Jesse.
make a quick public comment since no one else has raised their hand?
Yes, you may.
Tomorrow, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. is the reopening of the San Pedro Farmers Market at Little Italy. It will be right next to the Green Onion on the corner of 6th Street and Beacon Street. Hope to see you there.
Terrific. Now, there is another announcement that might be of interest. There was a share that from, bear with me, it was from Ryan Ferguson. There is an update to the bus routes in San Pedro, and apparently there is going to be a hearing tomorrow, Friday, September 18th at 9:30 a.m. in case you want to make public comments on LA Metro's proposed next-gen bus plan for San Pedro Wilmington. I have a PowerPoint here that was shared. There are quite a significant changes to the routes. And it might be something that people would be interested in taking a look at. Possibly giving feedback on that. I don't know how to share that in particular, but you know, maybe if we get through these items very quickly, I can go ahead and look at the PowerPoint and share it. It's right here and available. Okay, so first on the agenda is actually Jesse De La Cruz from Lot to Spot, if you would like to take over.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Gwen, for the invitation. Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, great. Yeah, so I'm Jesse De La Cruz, the community organizer from Lot to Spot. From Lot to Spot is a nonprofit organization that creates community design green spaces in low-income communities and communities of color. We currently manage about 6 community gardens. We create urban tree canopy projects and create parks. So within those projects, one of those projects is the San Pedro All Year Community Gardens, which I will be talking to you about. So I don't know. I did share some pictures, but are we able to share those, Gwen? I think you're muted.
Gwen, we could make him the co-host if you want him to share his screen.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
great. Can you do that, or do I need to do that?
I don't think I have the ability to do that. You might have the.
Jesse, I'm doing it right now.
Thank you. Yeah, so before she goes ahead and shares that with you all, I just wanted to let you know that the garden is located on 1400 North Gaffey Street in San Pedro, California. Um, the garden has been there for over 40 years. Is City of Los Angeles Department of Sanitation land, and currently we are partnered with Los Angeles Community Garden Council, who manages 47 community gardens across Los Angeles County, and they currently hold the MOU with LA San to manage the garden. So the garden has about 222 completed plots. Over the past year, we underwent a construction process that was identified by the gardeners through our engagement efforts. And so essentially, the garden sits on a hill. I wish I could show you that, but the garden sits on a hill. So the water pressure and the irrigation system was very outdated. So a lot of gardeners there, you know, they're seniors and they have to walk up the hill. So they would carry buckets of water up the hill to care for their plants. And so the city recognized this, and the city made a huge investment over the past year, Council District 15 and sanitation, in which there were 222 hose bibs installed, 21 submeters, and a new irrigation system with new laterals and a new main line that has also a main water meter. And it's also going to undergo additional like technologies that's going to be handed over to the gardeners. But ultimately, we were we had a few delays because of COVID and rainy delays. But you can imagine how hard it was to place like 180 families back in their plots during COVID. So our strategy was really to go to the hard to reach places, like calling them, sending in letters, allowing a electronic form to be available, and also doing public postings at the garden in order for any families to not to get displaced. So that was kind of our approach. The garden opened on June 22nd officially, and from there we did have a grand reopening with the Councilman Buscaino, staff from LA Sanitation, and other personnel from the city, and additionally gardeners as well. The media was there, but it was just a wonderful way to see how this community asset is going to benefit San Pedro and the wider harbor area, and it can do a lot for food justice. Currently exploring new ways of bringing in some programming ideas. So also you can sign up. The sign up process, is you can contact me. We've had some changes in the garden leadership. We're looking to host some elections soon. So if you want to get involved or want to volunteer, you can also contact me. My cell phone number is 213-421-1949. And my email is jesse@fromlot2spot.org. Or you can also visit our website if you want to learn more at From Lot to Spot. And I'm glad to take any questions or comments from the public or the board members.
Jesse, Jesse, I believe that you have the ability to accept co-host if you wanted to add some visuals.
Yes, he is a co-host. So if you're familiar with Zoom, Jesse, and you want to go to the share button, you can share any photographs.
Okay, give me 1 sec. Sorry.
I'd just say that I'm really glad that you're starting this up again with all the wildfires and the climate uncertainty. We really do need more people to learn how to grow their own food. An excellent program.
Oh, yeah, while you're concentrating on that, Jesse. All right, so
Can you see my screen?
yes,
Okay, great.
good to go.
Sorry about that. So let me just, go through. So this is one image. That's the councilman and the GM for sanitation. This is one long-standing gardener. So as you can see, just the vegetation and in the middle, like of San Pedro, and just next to the ports is, and so the actually it's adjacent to the freeway as well. It's so if you see where the land is located, I think I have an image of the map. But so this is one plot too down below. The gardeners get very creative. They really make it a safe haven and a home for their families and the community. This was a training that we did, during COVID. You can see we have face masks, but this was a water meter testing just to know how to read the water meters. So we did that along with the gardeners, the city, and ourselves. And other trainings are going to begin too, but I think I have a few more images. Yeah, that's so that's Councilman Boscaino playing around with the hose, just wetting people, and it was pretty fun to see everyone get to see this gem. Just really, really, really beautiful, and I'll be happy to share more information. We have a flyer as well with the board as soon as this stops. Sorry. So yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'll be happy to share the flyer, and we'll be happy to provide a tour as well of the garden to the board members and the wider public, as long as it remains under 10. But we can do that safely, socially distanced, just so you guys could get a glimpse of what the garden is like, learn more about the process, and just if you have any questions, and it'll be beautiful to get you guys engaged and involved with this project, because it could do a lot, like you said, for food justice, especially with all the uncertainty. When we see when COVID hit, our shelves are just wiped out, and so people are able to create this sustainability model around food justice and environmental justice. There's a lot of trees there that also are fruit trees that. And if you see, the culture there is to really share this food amongst each other and the community. So, yeah, thank you.
Would love to take some questions. Does anybody have any? Well, I did. So how many of the previous gardeners come back and return? Was there any group of people that didn't return to the garden?
Yeah, so there was a total of like 160 people that returned back, returning gardeners. There was about 2 to 3 that opted out for personal reasons, but we made sure to reach out to everyone and do public postings as well at the garden. again, it was a challenge, but we tried our best with this.
I also noticed a rain barrel in the background of one of those photos. Have those been utilized for storing of water, or was that something that's been added?
A what? I'm sorry. A
A
what?
rain barrel. A rain barrel. I saw
Oh,
that in one of the backgrounds there.
oh yeah, yeah,
Oh,
that's usually stored for water. Yeah, and they also have like a compost area, and and additionally we are going to commit 3 plots to just the community. So these 3 plots, and again, construction just finished, was completed 2 weeks ago, like finalized. So 222 plots done. About a month, when we opened in June, we had 195. So they were working on a few areas. So we did a soft opening. But now that they're all done, and we're going to start establishing his leadership during elections, we want to make sure those 3 plots are being used for community meetings, and somehow trying to build a garden collective in San Pedro and Harbor area as well.
so that will be a meeting place, and if you have some produce, you can place it there, and classes and that kind of thing.
Yes, exactly.
On a
Welcome
personal.
we welcome any local CBOs or anyone that wants to get involved with that as well.
Okay. On a personal note,
District 15 will have a plot there as well, so that'll be fun to see.
well, on a personal note, I didn't see my application. We can check that out later.
Oh yeah, no, you're on the wait list. So again, there's been a change in leadership. So as we're restructuring this from previously, the wait list was handled by the gardeners, and now from not the spot, our organization is going to handle that now, at least for the time being, per our agreement with the city. So as we start getting those documents from the leadership, we're going to start going down in chronological order through how people signed up. So I have you there, and I will make sure to reach out to you. You're muted. Peter?
Yeah, no. Hi, Jesse.
Hi, Peter.
Peter Rothe. I want to say thank you, at least from the calm expression on your face. It looks like what 6-7 months ago looked like a potential unsolvable crisis. looks like you guys have managed it in some way, and you've gotten most. I mean, I'm surprised there are so few people who have not, or I'm surprised there aren't more people who didn't return. There was a lot of anxiety over that. So thank you so much for that. I guess my question, there was a lot of concern about the death of some of the older trees that had been there for many years. There was concern if they weren't going to be watered. Do you know anything about how some of the older fruit trees have fared in the transition?
Yeah, so thank you, Peter. And thank you for your comments also. Appreciate it. Yeah, things are more stable. Thank you. We went through a roller coaster there, but yeah, I can say that it's funny because gardeners never stop gardening there. They were taking buckets of water. People were tapping into they created their own pipe system, so everything is thriving. You've seen from the pictures that those are recent pictures. Everything's green. But they're even more happy because they're not struggling now. They just connect their water holes and they get immediate water. So, yeah. I hope that answers.
No, it does answer my question. And some of the I'm reminded that some of the most serious conflicts, especially in the Western United States, have been water wars. So I think this whole the
No,
I
yeah,
guess yeah.
Peter, and I know you do work. I think you work with Feed to Be Fed, right? Yeah, so you know directly. Yeah, LADWP. I don't know if you know, in October they're increasing the rates by 26%. The water rate. So we're Schedule F. We're under the nonprofit rate. However, we're still looking at that increase, and with that comes like some hard decisions, water conservation methods. We're actually, I don't want to like really announce this formally, but we're working with an organization that is going to start installing some drip irrigation systems real soon. So that's going to be great. Yeah. And it's going to be like stipends awarded to gardeners. So it's going to be like not just, a asset to the garden, but a direct economic benefit to gardeners as well.
Good show. Good show. Alexander and Ron, these are our participants, our attendees. Do you have any questions? I believe that there's a possibility of raising your hand. Alexander is
Let me check the Q&A. Yeah, that was better.
I think we lost you a little bit.
You just have to unmute yourself.
Oh, I don't have any questions.
Oh.
You're now participating, so that's good.
Great, but I want to emphasize though, please, my phone number is 213-421-1949. Again, I'm going to be working on that wait list real soon. I have a conversation with the leadership tomorrow to try to get those documents over, but in the next 2 weeks, I should be going on that list. So I encourage everyone to sign up because this garden is going. I think someone's trying to speak. Sorry.
If any of your gardeners do want to sell at the farmer's market, that's a possibility. They have to get certified by the county, and then they could sell at their local market.
Thank you. Yeah. Share if you can share that information, that'll be great. We'll share it with our gardeners.
Well, I see a lot of really exciting things ahead for you, Jesse. This is fantastic. And for everyone who doesn't know where the garden is, you just go up Gaffey. It's right where the Department of Sanitation entrance is. What are the two cross streets that are closest there?
I know there's a Target. Sorry.
Channel.
Yeah.
Well, Channel and Gaffey. It's just north of Channel and Gaffey.
And it's to the left. It's to the right. If you're going north, it's to the right on the other side of the street and a driveway. And it's where you can also, on Saturdays, drop off any hazardous materials that you might have, as well as appliances and electronics. So that's something you can do at the Department of Sanitation as well while you're there to check out the garden, which is all there, hard to miss.
But yeah, again, let's set up a tour. Let's set up a walk and talk. Those are very productive. I would like to see how we could keep you all involved with these projects. It's gonna, especially as the restrictions get lifted, hopefully next year, sometime, we can really make this, do some community events, festivals, and all that good sort of stuff. It should be great though. And then I know that we're going to start doing veg outs as well. We're going to start planning that, and that should be, we'll make flyers for that as well to share. We'll bring it back to the board.
And I would like to also announce, once again, our board had elected to make $6,000 available for neighborhood purpose grants. with a COVID type theme to it, meaning that you're helping in some way with the COVID effort to alleviate some of the issues within our own community. So that deadline is actually fairly quick, and I will connect with you, Jesse, and I'm sure Peter, you might be aware of that. But our youth and outreach has been spreading the word through our Facebook presence. And anybody who's on Facebook can definitely share that with anyone who is within our area and would be able to benefit the community with those grants. Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to that. Again, Garden Council will be handling the grants, but I'm sure they'll apply, and if it benefits the community and the garden, it would just be even better.
Well, thank you, Jesse. I think we could move forward. The next on our agenda is Marlene Yang. She's the Regional Park Superintendent for Friendship Park and Nature Center. And there's a lot of exciting things going on over there.
Thank you, Gwen, for the introduction. So I wanted to say thank you for the board for having me, and to anyone else that's on here. It's good to start to connect with the community. So let me, my sharing is disabled, so if you could give me permission to share.
Yeah, hold on a moment. There we are. You should be able to see it very soon.
All right. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So like I said, thank you for having me. I'm going to be going over myself as the new superintendent here at Dean Dana Friendship Park. I wanted to give you updates on the community programming that we have and updates on park management. So as Gwen mentioned, my name is Marlene Yang. I've been the park superintendent since April. I started right around the time my start date was right when COVID, everything shut down because of COVID, and I decided to stay a little bit longer where I was to help them navigate those challenging times. Previous to this, I was at Monrovia Canyon Park, which is a city-owned wilderness preserve. I was there for about 5 years as a park ranger and then as a park coordinator. And my duties, what I needed to do is my experience was in park maintenance, trail building, general land management, leading and writing curriculum for education tours, and coordinating our volunteers. And prior to that, I was at Outward Bound Adventures, where I was a wilderness instructor, and I was also a program coordinator. I helped coordinate the Diverse Outdoor Leadership Institute that trained local people of color how to become wilderness instructors. I was with Outward Bound Adventures for about 7 years, and I got to go out and take youth of low income, underserved people of color into the outdoors, and that really kind of launched me in a career in natural resources. I am also a national parks enthusiast. So if you can see in my picture, all of those patches that I have, and it goes to my back now, are the parks that I have volunteered in. I believe in preservation, but I also believe in recreation and finding that balance in between. My background is in elementary education and wildland and forestry management. And so here are some updates on community programming that we've been involved with. So this fall, we actually were set to start on Tuesday with fall classes that adhere to the COVID guidelines. So we were able to uh, set up these classes. So we were doing ukulele for adults, for children, a parent and me class with violin and more instruments, a singing and dancing class for children as well, and a Tai Chi class. Unfortunately, due to low registration, most of those classes have been canceled. The only ones that were successful were the parent and me with the blue violin, and Sunshine Generation Singing and Dancing, which is also, both of those classes are more early education oriented. So for younger folks, we hope that in the winter we'll be able to do more classes. I believe that there was a little bit of hesitation for people to be involved in in-person classes just yet, and kind of settling in with education at home and what that looks like. So we didn't get as much registration. And I also believe that classes like this haven't been offered before at Dean Dana Park. So it's not common to look for that in this area. But I think that once we go start having these classes and people see that there's this opportunity, we'll be doing better. And hopefully in the winter, we'll be able to offer other classes as well. And if you know anyone that wants to become an instructor, these classes, a portion of the fees for the classes do go back to the instructors. And if they need help with that application, I could provide information. So if you know someone that wants to teach a gardening class, Jesse, I'm looking at you. If you have any of your people that within your community groups or even art classes, we're really open to anything. We just ask that it be here in the park. And so we have an amazing space where we are able to provide, keeping that distance and being safe within COVID guidelines, but still continuing to have some sort of classes within our park. And then what also came about is that I had a young lady by the name of, I don't want to mess up her name, Alexandra Sanhar. And she came with this idea of, in these times, it's hard to have community networking and connection. And so she decided that she wanted to create this plant share. So it works the same way as a community book share, where, you take a book, leave a book, but she set up a bookshelf right outside of our park. And you can see it from the parking lot because it's bright orange, where she set up some information about how to create these containers where they would be self-watering, and filled it up with a bunch of plants. And already people have been taking plants, and I have seen a few kind of show up out of nowhere. So I believe it's working, but this was just, she decided she was a community member and decided she wanted to contribute, and she volunteered to do this whole thing, which I think has been really successful. And I can give updates, but if you have a plant that you'd like to share, come on and visit us and leave a plant out. Or if you'd like to gain some new succulents, that's what's out there right now. So that's just a little bit about that. And as far as updates on park management, we want to let folks know that we are adhering to COVID guidelines. We are keeping our facilities clean. We were actually really lucky that in this area, we did not close the trails. Through COVID, the park has remained open. And so that really gives people somewhere to go, to kind of get out of their homes, do some exercise. What we have been doing to manage that and to provide space is we've been mowing, trying to make the trails a little bit wider so that people can go around each other and continue to maintain 6 feet of distance. Our picnic areas are technically closed for large birthday parties and gatherings, but we allow, what we are doing is we are just allowing people to, eat their lunch and leave for the day. We can't sanitize those areas, and that's why there's signs all around that say that the areas are closed, but it's kind of at your own risk. And if people are just kind of passing by, as long as there's not more than 10 people gathering, and as long as they don't stay more than 30 minutes to an hour, we allow it. And that's just within our picnic area in our park. We have also been doing a lot of fire clearance around the park boundaries that go right up to the residents. There are quite a few areas where that happens, and we've been going above and beyond to have the clearance for that, so much so that we collaborated with all the other 8 nature centers within the county and brought in staff from all of those centers into the park to help us. We're a small group of employees here, and so we needed help to take that on. We were running a little bit behind on what we needed to do, and so we collaborated. They were happy to help. We brought in a huge bin to take out a lot of what we cleared, and so we were able to stay on top of that fire clearance. And if for those of you that visit the park, you will definitely notice the difference. There's been a lot of work that has been done on the top lawn, and we're slowly working on the irrigation. There's been a lot of leaks, a lot of things breaking, and we're just trying to stay on top of that. So you'll notice how green the grass up there is, and we're trying to do more without wasting water and being conscious of that by fixing anything that's broken. And we're also going to start preparing for winter soon. We're clearing out an excess of debris wherever we find it within any gutters or any areas that could get flooded up or cause potential damage. So that is all that I have for you. We are here in the park. Our nature center is closed at the moment. They haven't opened it up yet. We don't have the clearance to open up the nature center quite yet, but if you have any questions, whether you would like to ask some questions now or if you would like to reach out to me, that is my email. That is the phone number. It is the park number. That's the best way to reach me. We're usually here Wednesday through Sundays from 11 to 7 p.m. Those are our park hours until the end of September. In October, we will be going back to a 9 to 5 schedule.
Thank you, Marlene. We could take some questions if anybody has any. Do any of our attendees have any to start, or do any of our, okay, Peter?
Marlene, first of all, my thanks to you and the county for the park. It is one of the favorite places for my young grandchildren to go, and they take advantage of the playground there. Love it, love the swings. We hike together as well, so very grateful for that. Are you? I know this is a hard thing for the employee to consider, but what's your sense of how COVID is affecting the county budget, and whether there are potential cutbacks in services in the parks, including Dean Dana?
So we are really fortunate at the park. The only way that the county within the recreation department was affected was through having to get rid of all of the part-timers. And so all of the staff that is here is full-time staff. So we weren't affected in that way. We didn't have any cutbacks. So the staff that we have, it's the staff that we've always had. And the big push was to bring in those contract classes to provide programming. And so those are the classes that we were able to bring because it's generating revenue that goes directly back to the instructors. And there's a percentage of that that goes back to the county for administrative and overhead. So if anything, we're starting to be able to provide more programming with outside sources to kind of balance the need for having staff focusing on maintenance and cleaning, because that's been a big component. We clean the bathrooms 3 to 4 times a day on a regular basis. So I can't have staff come away from cleaning the bathrooms to provide programming. So that's been kind of the give and take, is that we want to keep our park safe. We want to keep everyone healthy. And so that's been the balance. But we were really lucky that we didn't have any other major cutbacks within our department.
I do have one other question. You talked about fixing leaks in the irrigation systems. Have there been any recent reevaluations of irrigation systems from the sense of their efficiency their application, proper application and adjustment in, throughout the park. I realize that maybe a single dripper or a single sprayer is not a big deal, but when you multiply it by the thousands of, but even in a park like yours, the thousands of outlets, we're talking about a lot of water. How do you guys look at that?
Yeah, so before this was prior to me, there was all of the irrigation was put on a system called Weather Track, which basically tracks the weather and kind of identifies whether the sprinklers should be on or not and automatically adjust. And so that has been done. It hasn't been functioning properly, so we actually have someone coming on Thursday who's the head of that plumbing department that's coming in to assess all of the structure that we have and how to best meet the needs of the park, but also keeping in mind that we are trying to reduce our usage. So that's something that it's definitely on our minds. Yeah.
Gwen, you're muted.
There we go.
Would you recognize me?
Yes, I recognize Christian.
Peter and I are part of an organization called Feed and Be Fed, and that take a plant, leave a plant fascinates me, and I think that we will contact you and see how we can partner on that end.
Yeah, that would be great, Christian. I would love to reach out to you too. We're working on having a beekeeper come in and put up a structure for, I don't know all of the proper language for it, but he's setting up a structure that's going to be hidden from the public, but that will produce honey. And so there are some thoughts of potentially selling that for the volunteer group, or even providing it in the community at the farmers market, or doing something with that. But the Feed and Be Fed is definitely, this is the first that I hear of it. So I would really like to connect with you on those things.
And in regards to perhaps a nonprofit coming in and doing something that is not a paid item, not a contracted thing, is that within the parameters of something that the park can do, or are you limited for legal reasons to only contracted activities?
As of right now, we are limited because of liability. And so we want to make sure that if something does occur, that the county is liable for that. And so we aren't allowing any new volunteers to come in, unfortunately, or any large groups or other nonprofits. That's something that we are looking for potentially in next summer, depending on how things go. It's all kind of up in the air of how soon we'll be able. But there's definitely a system in place for, if we have a community event, how to register people through the community event, so that we can minimize, how many people we have until we're able to have large gatherings. So the potential is there, but we just haven't gotten the green light for things of that nature. That's why they're only allowing contract classes, is because that falls under the liability of the county. So.
But if the nonprofit can come up with the liability coverage, would that work? For example, if one of those neighborhood purpose grants was utilized in order to do a book reading or some other activity. And
yeah, I think, as long as they're able to provide insurance, I think we would need to kind of present it that way, that they have their own coverage and their own insurance, and that we would be limiting. Right now, the magic number is 12, no more than 12 participants. And so anything other than that. But there have been, I've noticed people that are hosting classes. There's the Fit for Moms that are having classes, and they're doing them here in the park, and we're not really interfering with them because we see that they're adhering to the COVID guidelines. So we're allowing it. We want people to use the park and what that looks like. The only thing that we're not allowed to do is to make reservations, because that means that you're having a group gathering. So we're if we do see groups, as long as they're adhering I see a prayer group out there every Wednesday because their churches, they're not allowed to be in their churches. And there's definitely more than 10 of these women, but they are all separated out, so we don't turn them away because we know finding space and being outdoors and being safe is really hard to do these days. So we're trying to be considerate of those things, but that's definitely something that we could look into.
And I had one more question. Has the park considered having virtual tours, filming them, having live tours in lieu of, and educational events in lieu of actually gathering?
Yeah, so what we are working on right now is about a month ago, we had filming in our park of giving a virtual tour. That's currently being edited and translating it into Spanish. And the other thing that we are doing is I am trying to get the green light to have virtual education tour, not education tours, but animal presentations where classes are meeting on Zoom anyway. And so we would just join their class and give our presentation and have a live animal with us. It's the closest that we can get to interpretive education. We're meeting the schools where they're at. We've been allowed to do that. The only conflict is using Zoom. They prefer us not to use Zoom, and then that makes it really challenging for the teachers. So that's something that we're working on. We might have to bring in our personal devices to kind of get around that because we love to teach and we want to educate, especially children or any community groups. And if this is the only platform, we have to, kind of adjust and be flexible with where people are at. So that's something that we're working on as well.
Thank you, Marlene. Does anybody have any questions or any nature? That's really wonderful and inspiring things that are going on up there, and despite the difficulties. And yeah, I'm gonna join in on the leave a plant, take a plant.
Marlene, great. Peter, great to meet you. Great to know you kind of face to face, understand your background and your passion. Thank you so much.
Are we good? Any last calls? Well, thank you, Marlene, for your presentation. I'll try to see it. Would you be interested in doing a similar presentation for the board meeting? It would be limited to be a bit briefer, but I believe it would be really great for the community to know everything that's going on up there.
Yeah, right now, once I was kind of coming in, I wanted to get kind of my grounding of understanding the care that this place needs with land management, and we hit the ground running really hard with that. And now I'm at the stage of where I'm connecting with the community and trying to do that. So any way that I can, I'm more than happy to. Jesse, I'm definitely going to call you to take the staff down. We're trying to create a native plant nursery here to collect seeds and start growing so that we can revegetate a lot of our area. So I'd love to see what you've got going on in the gardens and take a staff down on a tour so that they can see what that looks like. And I'm gonna go to the farmer's market tomorrow now that I know that they're reopening, but I'm just really looking to connect with the community because that's who we're here to serve. And I strongly believe that without the community, there's no point in us being here. So I want to make it accessible and meet the community's needs. So I'd be more than happy to show up at any other meetings that you need. And thank you for having me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Peter.
just a thought, Marlene. You might consider connecting with the folks at the PV Nature Conservancy, mainly
Right.
because for many years they've had their own nursery, and they've been around that particular block before, trying to grow plants that are very specific to this native environment. So those people might be able to be of help to you. I applaud that effort.
Thank you.
And yes, it could be very communal. Palos, yeah, the Palos Verdes Peninsula Land Conservancy did announce that there was there's a plant sale going on right now, and they are starting to have some of those plants distributed. There's 2 locations. That would be White Point, and then the larger conservancy that's up on top of the hill, that's more in Palos Verdes, just off of Crenshaw.
Thank you for that. That's a great tip. I had been connecting with their director as far as reopening nature centers, but I hadn't thought about the nursery and that they already have that running. So thanks. That was a good tip. And if there aren't any other questions, I actually do have to go and help close the center at 7.
Thank you.
But I thank you for having me.
Thank you, Marlene. Thank you so much for joining us.
Not a problem.
And I guess we'll see her at the farmer's market too.
Very good news. Very good news.
Okay, so there's only one thing left on the agenda, and this is probably the most important thing. It's, let me see if I can now share my screen. Let's see. Are you able to see? Are you able to see the screen?
We can see it. We can see it.
Okay, great. So this is Carlos. You might perhaps unmute Carlos since he's on the phone. What you see on the screen is actually not the version that is posted online, but there were a few amendments that were done, friendly amendments. I don't know if we should actually motion to have the amendments considered as the resolution, and we can read through the resolution.
I asked Carlos to unmute. I don't know if he did, but in the meantime, can we read the "be it resolved" part? Do you mind scrolling down?
Yes. It's quite long. We might as well read the whole thing. Well, here we go. Be it resolved, which is therefore, the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council requests that the Governor Newsom, and the Mayor, the Los Angeles City Council, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, and the LAUSD each take appropriate steps to ensure that the various risks posed by the operation of the Rancho LPG storage facility are evaluated without delay, and that the Governor and Mayor ensure the efforts to eliminate or mitigate these risks are efficiently coordinated with the appropriate California state and local agencies, commissions, the California legislature, and the relevant federal departments and agencies. Also, the following items should be considered for immediate action. The conversion of the existing temporary month-to-month Westmont Rail Spur operating agreement to a long-term lease with all the terms of such an agreement including a risk assessment. There is no risk assessment, and that's the most important thing. 2, the amendment of the operating agreement and rail spur permit to reflect the transport of hazardous materials, propane. 3, the amendment of the operating agreement and rail spur permit to include insurance commensurate with the risk for that use, considering its dangerous nature in close proximity to a dense population, and the fair market value of property assets subject to harm from an accident. Carlos, do you think you can talk about this?
Yes, am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
We can
Well-
hear you.
Is this better?
It's perfect.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think this was spurred by the disaster in Beirut, Lebanon, where there was an explosion of ammonium nitrate that was much, much less in volume than the potential risk posed by the Rancho LPG facility. So I know we've addressed this in the past, but I think that given the nature of the risk posed by that facility, it's time for us to once again attempt to have this looked at both the state and the local level. And so all the whereases essentially provide that background information that leads up to the resolutions for the actions that we've just read. And so I guess there's always hope, and I think it's something that should be done and needs to be done. And I think the current crises in California and the West Coast with the natural disasters related to climate warming and the fires kind of set the tone for the necessary action to deal with the facility once again.
May I add to that? I guess so. In regards to the Beirut disaster, I'm sure that all of you had seen some of the video, but the Beirut blast is actually smaller in impact than what has been calculated for the possible explosion of the storage tanks. And seeing that should have been quite a wake-up call for everyone. What prompts this is that there are a lot of things that could potentially endanger those tanks. What has been spoken about before is the age of the tanks. What has also been spoken about is the fault line, which recently there is an additional slip strike fault line that has been identified that has the potential of a 7.2 earthquake that was previously unknown and has been the U.S. Geological Survey had announced this. We have that rail spur and the transport of butane and the railway system. There have been derailments, and that is a danger. As is the infrastructure that we have around the port. I mean, any one of those explosions, I mean, a transport of just one tank, if that explodes, the danger to this economic engine of the port is very significant. Disruption to the economic engine of the world, I mean, of the Western United States, it should be of concern. So with that in mind, that's what this resolution is. And there's an adjoining letter. You can hold on. I'll try to find it. Here's the cover letter that was composed once again by Carlos. Thank you very much for working on this, Carlos. And as you can see, it's addressed to Gavin Newsom, the mayor, the executive director of the Port of Los Angeles, and the LAUSD Superintendent Austin Beutner, I believe his name is. This I had just forwarded to you, but since this was not posted, I believe we do need to have a motion that we should consider this letter. to go with the resolution? Does anyone want a motion and second?
I'll motion it.
Yes.
I second the motion.
All right. All those in favor? Peter?
Too late. I was going to second the motion. Christian beat me to it. I'm voting aye. Sorry.
Okay. Carlos?
Yes.
And Gwen, yes. So guys have it. All right. Well, but here we do need to read it. Addressing the risks posed by the Rancho LPG storage facility to the Los Angeles Harbor area. The recent disaster in the Port of Beirut once again reminds us of the risks posed by the Rancho LPG storage facility. Hold on, that's my dog. Sorry. The recent disaster in the Port of Beirut once again reminds us of the risks posed by the Rancho LPG storage facility to the communities in the Los Angeles Harbor area, the Port of Los Angeles, the Port of Long Beach. A similar disaster would result in much greater damage. For example, it is estimated that in a worst case scenario, an explosion involving only one of the two 12.5 million gallon butane storage tanks would generate a force 10 times greater than that of the Beirut explosion. The POLA and Port of Long Beach, LB, port complexes are vital economic engines for the state and the nation. Both ports fall within the blast radius of an explosion involving only one of those two butane tanks. In a major earthquake, both butane tanks would likely rupture, creating even greater devastation. After the Beirut disaster, we believe it is important for the governor and the mayor to address the risks posed by the Rancho LPG facility. We understand the difficulties involved in addressing these risks, but that the potential of an even greater disaster in the harbor area warrants such action by the governor and the mayor, and to the extent within their power by POLA and LAUSD. So, all right, so we've considered it. I guess we voted on it. Or should we vote on it again?
I'm sorry, Gwen. My apologies. What are we voting on?
Voting on the we have a raised hand, actually, if you would like to do that, Christian. Hello, Ron.
Well, while Christian is frozen, is he frozen on your screen?
Oh, here. Let me try to stop the share for the moment. Yeah, I think we lost him.
There we go.
Should be a speaker phone. You should be able to miss it. I think unmuted.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can, Ron. Thank you.
Okay, very good. First of all, I saw this proposed resolution. That's a prerogative of yours on the committee. I sent an email to Mr. Regalado on Monday. We've been down the road before about the Northwest Neighborhood Council disseminating information that's not accurate to the public domain. You know, I don't want to cause any issues here. Ray knows that. First of all, our blast radius is not 3+ miles. The Environmental Protection Agency, who the United States Congress has put in charge of the risk management plan in 1990, has twice vetted and calculated our plan, right? And they do not agree with that. Our blast radius is 0.5 miles. We have 2 letters from the EPA that'll substantiate that. So therefore, putting something out there 3+ miles is inaccurate and is not in accordance with the agency that has been put in charge of the risk management plan for the United States of America. There's 12,800 facilities that fall underneath this plan, and we are just one of those. If you want to go down to LA Department of Fire Department at Coupa and look at all the risk management plans, I 100% guarantee you we don't have the biggest blast radius or the biggest offsite consequence. 100% guarantee it. You can go look at anybody's risk management plan down at the Los Angeles Fire Department Coupa office, 200 North Main Street, and you will see that. So therefore, any comparison to ammonium nitrate also and butane is an invalid comparison. Ammonium nitrate is an explosive, and it's governed by the ATF. And butane is a flammable regulated substance under the auspices of the United States Environmental Protection Agency under Regulation 40 CFR 68. And as far as the seismic, there's 850 some facilities in the California that have to do a seismic assessment based upon specific criteria that's put out by the state. And we just did ours in 2019. We did one in 2014 and one in 2009. That CalARP seismic plan and assessment is done by a third party that has to be validated by the state, as well as the Los Angeles Fire Department. They will not concur with any opinion of yours that our tanks would fail under the worst case scenario of a seismic event down there. And so I'm serious. These stuff that are stated in your resolution, that's inaccurate data.
May I respond?
Go for it.
My understanding that the EPA regulation all has an alternative methodology for calculating blast radius, and this is based on that alternative calculation. And there's been some questions raised on the methodology in the regulation that actually reflects the use of toxic instead of flammable materials. So I think we are on good ground for this estimate, and it's been one that's been calculated by others using the alternative methodology in the regulation.
There is no alternative calculation in that regulation. There's one for flammables under pressure. There's one for toxics, and there's one for LPG under refrigeration. So there's 3 different calculations in that regulation, 40 CFR 68.25, and we use the one that the EPA tells us to use, and that is an accurate one. And if you want, I have 2 letters from the EPA, so take it where you want. I got 2 letters from them. Both of those are legal documents, and I will turn them over to the city attorney, and I already have.
My understanding is that the EPA does not actually review and confirm the estimates. All they do is recognize that one has been submitted. That's my understanding.
That is inaccurate. I know where that comes from. I have a letter saying that they not only reviewed, they calculated it. And that is from the EPA Region 9 attorney. Would you like the letter?
We certainly would.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. If you would definitely forward, you say there are 2 letters.
That's correct.
We would greatly appreciate that information.
And one of them is in the State Lands Commission of 2017, August 17, 2017. They confirm that they confirmed that they again did and reviewed our risk management plan, or worst case, at the request of the San Pedro Peninsula Homeowners United. And the EPA clearly states that our worst case scenario is 0.5 miles. And they go on to say that our facility is one of the more safer butane facilities for the fact that we refrigerate, we store the butane under refrigeration. So that is false narrative there to say that we use an alternative method. That is false.
Thank you, Ron. We have a question here, Christian Guzman.
Are you saying that I have one, or is it one listening?
Christian, you
I don't
should
think
repeat that.
You
You should
broke up,
repeat
man.
that question.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I think it's immaterial, although the neighborhood council will always endeavor to have the most factual information. It's immaterial to the motion. We are representing the community, and we feel, according to the resolution, that there is an issue of safety regardless of the blast radius, which it was said that there is a blast radius. And so I do still support the spirit of the resolution and the letter, which is a question of safety and advocating for better stewardship.
That's not I don't have an issue with that, but putting 3+ miles
Mr.
in there
Conroy,
is
you were not
inaccurate.
recognized by the chair. I'm not sure if the chair wants to continue to recognize you. She may.
Christian, are you done with your statement?
Yes.
Thank you. Ron, if you would bear with me before you respond, Peter also has a question or a statement, and I also wanted to make a mention as well.
Sure.
Hey, Ron, I'm just curious, are you very familiar with how the EPA analyzed this particular blast radius, or are you just stating that they followed procedure?
If you want, next meeting, I have the software. I'll calculate it for you. I know how to do it, and I know how they do it. I'm a member of the Academy of Institute of Chemical Engineers. I've been in this business for over 40 years. I've worked every aspect of refining, E&P, international, offshore, all of that good stuff. That doesn't mean I can walk on water. It means I know my business.
Well, I guess okay, then I have one other question. In calculating a blast radius or the effects of a blast, terrain has an influence on that calculation. Am I right?
It will to an extent,
Yeah.
and the blast radius is rated, the criteria to endpoint is a 1 pound overpressure.
Understood. I guess my question is, again, with your familiarity of the way the EPA evaluated the blast radius, did they take into careful consideration the terrain?
That's correct. They use their own software. The EPA has a software called RMP Comp. That is what all the facilities, approximately 12,800, have to use to calculate their blast radius.
Well, Ron, what we actually are concerned about, and well, first off, the letter and the resolution is to have all of the parties assess the risks. Perhaps we should talk about the blast radius. That seems to be a sticking point, but this is simply a request to assess the risks, and we have continued endlessly to say that the actual true risk assessments for the facility and its relationship to other infrastructure that are nearby. There's Phillips 66, the Port of Los Angeles. There's a lot of moving parts that are also explosive. And, you know, we're not saying that Rancho LPG is by itself dangerous, but should something happen nearby, a chain reaction could happen. But these are things that have never been evaluated in a risk assessment. The association between different sites has never been analyzed. Each one has been analyzed as its own entity, but not in a combination of these different industries. So that's
what happens if something happens at Phillips?
exactly. My point. We mention Rancho LPG simply because it is a storage facility for a very volatile fluid in a very large amount of volume, and we're not commenting on the safety of it. What we're talking about is a relationship risk of all of these different things. I mean, at our last meeting, Ron, you agreed that the derailment of one of those cars, the holding at the tank car, was a concern. And unfortunately, I'm trying to create a PowerPoint. I had to move to my laptop at the very last minute, but I'm working on a PowerPoint to show these relationships of what the danger is to Rancho. For example, Ron, since we last talked, I was at Target, and I was there just to buy something, and lo and behold, right there on the rail spur, right across the street, there was a fire. And I immediately called 911, and the firemen came and extinguished it. But no more than 2 minutes later, they were still right there in the area with the truck, and here comes the tank trains. And then another fire happened just a week or two later. So right there on the rail spur. So there are things that are outside the control of Rancho LPG that increase the risk. And
that's fine. I agree with that. As far as there are things outside of our control.
Correct.
What happens in the past is we get blamed for a derailment, right? The last derailment we talked about in February wasn't at our property. Is that correct?
No, it was not.
Because there's chain of custody under 49 CFR 171. Chain of custody, once ourselves or Phillips, and I'll just use them, or anybody releases our rail cars, that's it. They are under the chain of custody transfer and the responsibility of the railroad, period.
And that is exactly what we're communicating about. We've gone around and around in circles, and everybody says this risk assessment is not going to be done because it's not our job. So what we're finally getting to is that it's just really honestly, that Beirut explosion has put everybody on notice. And I have seen enough of just simply butane tanks on the rails, and seen the explosions from that say that this is, even that on its own is a significant danger to important port infrastructure. The rail right there that is not on LPG property it's right there where the trucks come out, and other car rail comes out, and a few of the ships berth right there, and it's within their blast radius, and it's within your blast radius. So
not necessarily. So
well, Well, that's why we want the risk assessment.
That's a BLEVE, and a BLEVE is different than a vapor cloud explosion or any type of other event that could happen, a pool fire. There are about 5 major events, and they're all different and they're unique. And you have to know how to calculate them to understand what the impact would be.
Ron, are you done with your thought? Because we do have another question, Peter.
Sure.
Well, yeah. So Ron, let me understand your position. If we were to remove what you consider to be hyperbole about the blast radius, are you okay with our request for further review and an expansion of risk management? Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, from a holistic perspective, yes.
Yeah.
See, the contention, Peter, is this, and Regalado knows this, right? Because he was counseled by the Los Angeles City Attorney about the dissemination of inaccurate information in the public domain. 3.5 miles, 3+ miles, I'm telling you, is wrong. And there's no agency will validate that for you, right?
Has anyone else beside, I'm not sure where we got that figure. Has anyone else?
I know where you got it from.
So someone else, we didn't make that up.
No, I know all the players. I've been in this game here at San Pedro since November 2008. I can read verbiage, and I know almost can tell you who wrote it.
Ron,
That's immaterial.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down there. It's dissemination of wrong information, and I think you need to talk to Ray about the conversation with the city attorney that called him up about this kind of, because I don't want to get anybody, it's not, we want to all do the right thing, but I don't want false information. There's no agency that'll say and rubber stamp that.
Ron, thank you for that thought. Yes, we have been very sensitive to that, and yes, I do believe that if we keep that information in, we should possibly go through the city attorney to discuss the ins and outs of that. But Peter's thought is very good. Should we reword this or get this in such a form that, because what the important thing is that we want a risk assessment of the entire complex and its relationships to each facility. That's what's really got us really up in arms. And I'm sorry, another thing that happened, Ron, is that there was a person, a port employee, who, for whatever reasons, tried to take a train, sped it up to high velocity, and tried to derail it into the Navy, the Navy medical ship that was docked out there. Yes, and it's things like this that are outside of people's control, that we need this risk assessment of. Anyway, Peter.
Yeah, I was going to say I would be in favor of modifying our opening paragraph. I don't, in 0.5 miles, a lot of people, including children, will die. I work within 1.5 miles of that facility 3 times a week. So it doesn't, so far as I'm concerned, there is a big difference between, obviously, if you're talking about radius, between 3 miles and 0.5 miles, but the serious impact to life and property, even within their accepted blast radius, is severe enough to provoke and prompt what I consider should be this risk assessment.
I know the number of people that are impacted in that zone. And I'm just going to tell you this, right? You can go down and find that out yourself. And I challenge you to look at the worst case, because some of them are not flammable, some are toxics, of the risk of every facility in the harbor area, the greater harbor area. And I think you'll be very surprised. You'll be shocked.
Thank you, Ron.
And public can do that.
Yeah.
If you need some help, I'll help you do it. I'll go down there with you.
Well, I would appreciate your commitment in that. You really are. If you have some information, we would appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's in the public domain.
Yeah.
You just have to go down there and do it, show an ID, because of the Department of Homeland Security, the reason if I go down there, I have to show ID. I know I've looked at every risk management plan in the entire Los Angeles area for refineries and those kinds of things.
Yes, but then once again, the risk management plans do not take into account the relationships of each, and that would be.
That's correct. That's where
we're going.
And that's a big ask.
Yes, Ron, if you could bear with me, Christian has would like to speak.
Again, I think if we wanted to really be cautious and make sure that we're sharing factual information, which I think the council should endeavor to do, we can always kind of take a step further and recommend to the government to use eminent domain and buy the entire property. And that would not be, we wouldn't really need a rationale. And we can do that for the sustainability reasons, because this is emitting a lot of greenhouse gases, or any potential safety reasons as well. So we could amend this to make it in such a way where we won't have any risks of speaking inaccurately.
Yeah, and if you want the information on the greenhouse gases and stuff, it's in the Ponte Vista final draft report of 2013. So I got all this stuff down, guys. This is my job. This is my livelihood for 40 some years. Even though I don't live down there, I got everything.
Thank you, Ron. Carlos, we can't see whether you have anything else to say, but would appreciate your thoughts.
Gwen, this is Ron again. It doesn't look like Carlos is going to say, I mean, if there's some way I could help you all with this, if we could get all of maybe the major people together once this COVID thing is over and agree, is there some way to do this?
I think one sure way to do it, Ron, would be to get the owners of the facility to chip in to pay for the risk management. That would be a really great, that would be a super good faith action, and it would probably help to probably get it done.
Yep, I agree with that.
So
we just have to determine who's going to do it and how it's going to be done. But it's a bigger, I'm not trying to downplay it. It's just a bigger ask than you realize.
It's a very big ask.
But it's not impossible.
It is a big ask.
It is a big ask, but I think you as somebody in a responsible position should help to make that determination, imagining that your grandkids are living within 0.5 miles of those tanks. That's how I think that would help.
Well, that always puts things in perspective. Two of my granddaughters were going to school next to the facility we have out here at Shafter, which is many times larger, and it's a processing facility. It's about half the size of Phillips. And, you know, so as a grandparent, I was always concerned about that, to be honest with you.
Thank you, Ron. I'm glad you have that perspective. Another thought is that of concern is that the Navy fuel supply point has also been the Navy is looking to renew that, and they have been actively looking for bids in order to run that. So that again is another facility that potentially creates a risk. That's not part of the discussion at the moment because it hasn't happened yet, but knowing that that is within within a very close area as well. And I am in the process of creating a map, and I can do the half-mile radiuses of all of these different facilities, whatever the radius risk managements are for each. But that's Christian.
In the interest of definitely erring on the side of caution, I would not be opposed to referring this to a future meeting, Madam Chair, if you want to go that route.
That sounds like a good suggestion. Carlos, your thoughts, if you are.
It says he's unmuted. I just don't know if he's actually.
Yeah, I don't know if he's on it's a phone.
Hey, Gwen, this is Ron again. Again, if you're going to try and do something like that, you know, more power to you. It's well-intentioned and probably quite needful. But to do that, because all of the blast radius, and there's some that don't have a blast radius, there's a toxic, right?
Correct.
Toxic cloud. You'd have to go down to LA Fire Department, Coupa, and pull you have to ask for the risk management plan for Rancho and Phillips 66 and, you know, all the refinery. You can get that. You can't take them away, but you can take notes and that kind of stuff. You can get the information.
Well, Ron, it isn't our responsibility to take on an extremely a job that requires quite a bit of experience and background in order to do properly. And that is why we as a neighborhood council would like to write a letter specifically requesting for all parties for their safety, for the safety of this entire port complex, that this be done. So would anybody be opposed to tabling this, reviewing, looking at the blast radius language and referring it to the the attorney and the city attorney, and looking at rewording it in such a way that clearly defines our ask and makes it in such a way that it's understood properly. Peter.
Madam Chairman, I move that we table discussion of the resolution until such time we have an opportunity to redraft the resolution and review that draft with the city attorney, looking to bring it back to this committee for review at that time.
I take the motion. Is there a second? Carlos, I hope you can. Well, I will second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carlos?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. One other alternative would be to modify the language of the first a paragraph to say at least a half a mile based on OPD risk management plan. If we did that in the one, two, three, five, in the sixth whereas clause, we could just eliminate the last sentence, just so we don't have it. So that's another alternative.
Okay, I actually have the Word document. Carlos, I have the Word document up. And I can actually make those revisions currently, right now.
You know what we could do actually, if we want to do that, if we were to amend that, but then confer with Ray and the city attorney before we take this to the full board, then we could basically have the best. We definitely could amend it, and before we took it to the board, make sure that it's all well and good
Yeah.
for other public session.
But if we made the changes I suggested, Ron does not have any problems with it. And it still gets to the point that it needs to be evaluated. And the questions of which methodology to use can be resolved at a later time.
Very wise, Carlos. So once again, for the sake of clarity, the amendments would be, I see that the first paragraph has a description of, well, that's the volume. That is the volume of the tank, which is not in dispute. So we have
It would be, would
the
produce.
EPA. The EPA. You do see the EPA a worst case blast radius of 1/2 mile. That was part of the whereases. The Rancho LPG reports to the EPA a worst case blast radius of 1/2 mile that result.
Well, then you'd have to eliminate the other because it's all based on this on another calculation. But you could just say that would produce a blast of at least 0.5 miles.
Excuse me,
Okay,
Madam
I see it right here.
Chairman, Madam
Yes.
Chairman,
Yes.
and I always rely on Christian to help me with this, but I'd like to raise a point of order because there is a motion on the table regarding whether this discussion should be tabled.
That's true.
And we need to, I think, dispense with that before going on with any editing.
Yes, I agree. So in regards to tabling it, I believe that Peter said yes. I said yes. Carlos, for tabling it to
Okay.
bring the language to the city attorney, or do we want to say no to this and then forward with a slightly different change to what we're going to do?
Just as a point of order, or actually be more of a point of information, since the language was tabled, you can take it from the table immediately. So even if this passed and it was tabled, if you wanted to, we could take it from the table, because we didn't word this as a refer to a certain time. So if we really want to, we can keep doing this regardless of what the table vote goes.
Okay, so if somebody could help me with this, because now okay, so we're
When?
currently in a table to review the language.
Yeah, Christian is saying we have the opportunity to, right now, to take it off the table because we've dealt with the motion. He is right about that. If we want to discuss or vote on whether we pull it off the table, I'm going to vote against that because I think there needs to be some careful consideration put into this. And there was discussion of also reviewing it with once the language was changed, of reviewing it with the city attorney.
The attorney.
Why? I would be very happy if you or Carlos wanted to do the editing and you and you submitted this for our review outside of this meeting, I'm kind of at the limit of the amount of time I can devote to this.
Yes, yes, we're at 7:40 right now, and we had set for 8 o'clock. So you withdraw the tabling, and or say no now, and
No, Madam Chairman, it was tabled, but Christian's point was it was not tabled for any specific amount of time.
Oh,
So
that's true.
somebody else, I'm not going to do it, but somebody else can make a motion to put the question of the editing of this back on the table. Somebody else can do that.
Carlos, would you like to do that?
We could do that, but I think if we were going to table it, we need to make sure that, say, for example, the fourth whereas clause is raising any concerns with Ron according to his perspective.
Yeah, so so what we will be doing is making amendments to deal with the concerns of Ron, and we will also be having it go under review with the city attorney for any other complications. And then from there, should there not be any further issues, do we say that with the amendments, as Ron had highlighted, that might be of a concern with the city attorney, that should we make this happen and the city attorney greenlights it, that we vote on it with those amendments?
Well, I think we should provide a status report at the next Sustainability Committee meeting. I'm not quite sure how long this process would take. So I don't see it coming up before the next October meeting of the full board.
Okay, I see. So yes, all right. So we will proceed with the amendment and review with the city attorney. And should it not be approved at that time, we will be giving the board the status of where this resolution and the letter are. Does that sound correct?
Sounds really good.
Okay. So would someone like to motion that? And second.
You really don't need to motion. It was already tabled. We were just
All
kind
right,
of
okay.
planning for the future.
All right, so that
I think
sounds
we're
good. All right, sounds good.
And then Ron is going to send us this, I think he referred to a letter from the EPA in 2017.
Right. And I can send you some other letters. You know, again, I'm not, you know, here to blast anybody or anything like that. I mean, even down in some of your points, you know, about the rollover permitting and all of that kind of stuff. The port could cancel that on us immediately at any time after month to month. But the Surface Transportation Board ruled in 2017, if they did that, PHL would still have to service Rancho on those same tracks, because those tracks are under the jurisdiction of the Surface Transportation Board. I got all this stuff, and so I mean, any way I can help you out, I will. It's not a problem.
Ron, my suggestion, Ron, would be for the resolutions as it stands, if you could provide your comments to the statements in each of the whereas clauses, and even the others. So we have your informal comments, so we can better document your concerns. Is that possible?
Yeah, I'll address each one of these paragraphs, and you can take it or leave it, because again, it's your prerogative. I'll just give you the particular regulation. I'll give you what that regulation number is, and any law, and I'll give you what that law is on this stuff.
That would be fine. That way you're kind of responded to it. I know it's just a draft, and I'll respond to it in that sense. And so you feel that you have, fully responded as you wish.
Thank you, Carlos. So Ron, we greatly appreciate your contributions as to the wording of this. Perhaps we can take this offline as to whom to address it to, and you could forward it to Ray, and Ray can then forward it to us. Ron?
Oh, very good. No, whatever y'all want to do, because again, it's your council. I just saw this, so
Yeah.
My business is representing Rancho, and your job, your passion is to represent the neighborhood council and the community, and that's a righteous passion, right, friend?
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. So are we done with our third item? Is there any other thoughts? As I see no thoughts, we are going to look at the wording as to the blast radius. We will be hearing from Ron. He will be contributing his feedback on the resolution. And we will be, with the amendments to that particular issue, we will also be reviewing this with the city attorney. Is that good?
Sounds good, Madam Chairman.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'm stopping the share. There we are. And thank you everybody for participating. If there's anything else that anybody wants to speak about, I would call this meeting to a close. Are we good?
We're
Thank
good.
you, Gwen.
Thank you. Thank
everybody.
you. Thank you, everybody. All right. Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Be safe down there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
You will try. You as well.
No, seriously. I mean, there's a lot of, there's bad stuff going on here. There's a lot of bad stuff going on down there. We're just the
I know.
recipient of the bad air. But we're not having any fires here right now.
Excellent. That is good.
Everybody stay safe. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.